Dear participants, welcome to the fourth and the final session on Day 4, Room 1 presentations. In this session, we are hosting the President of the Conference and the Dean of the Faculty of Civil and Environmental Engineering, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş, Assistant Professor Dr. Amin Ryazi from the Cyprus International University, Professor BACHIR HAKIM from the Agri-Water Management and Agrometeorology, Algeria, Professor KHALIL AL-SAMARRAI from the Geological Engineering Department, University of Tripoli, Libya, and Dr. Abbas Hashemi from the Canadian Institute for International Law Expertise, Canada. As the first speaker, I would like to invite Professor Gökçekuş to deliver his presentation.
Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. I would like to say welcome you all to my speech, and I would like to thanks to all supporter, contributor until now, but special thanks to moderator, Dr. Mustafa Alas. Depends on his successful performance. Today I'm planning to talk about the transfer water from Turkey to Cyprus pipeline project of TRNC. My presentation is risk assessment of onshore and offshore water pipeline of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. This is a review study. Yes, my presentation includes introduction, importance of the study, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus water supply project, Turkey, TRNC, neighboring countries, peace water project, risk assessment of onshore and offshore long-distance water pipeline, and at the end of my presentation, you will see conclusions and future work. Rapidly population growth have increased the energy demand, economic activities, and water crisis over the last few decades, which lead to reduce resources of the land and increase the environmental issues. Therefore, certain human activities have moved from the land to the sea to explore marine resources to support economic development and solve the global water crisis. For example, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus water supply project, nearshore wind farm installations, and so on. Maritime engineering is necessary to success of offshore development projects. However, because of the highly uncertain ocean working environment, the probability of the maritime engineering project's failure is high. Using risk assessment to improve maritime engineering technology is a reasonable approach to managing this problem. Risk is generally understood as the possibility of human casualties or property damage caused by an event. Therefore, the risk of an event includes the number of casualties or extent of damage and the frequency of occurrence. According to the risk management guidelines of the International Organization for Standardization, risk assessment integrates the following three processes: risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation. Risk identification: for a sound engineering project, it is important to broadly identify sources of risk, reasons for the risk, and risk effects at the beginning of a project. Risk analysis: based on risk identification, risk analysis during an engineering project should describe the characteristics of the risk, determine their consequence, and the likelihood that they will occur by using the appropriate methods which can be qualitative, semi-quantitative, quantitative, or a combination of thereof. Risk evaluation, the results of risk analysis can be used to support better risk evaluation to make decisions on the priority of risk treatments by comparing the levels of risk found during the analysis process. Importance of this study. Engineering project managers have recently adopted risk control techniques to improve project success rates. A successful engineering project depends on strong engineering technology and on knowing how to deal with the risk caused by uncertain factors throughout a project. Risk management can provide assistance to engineering projects in the following three areas: identifying factors that influence project successes, focusing on the most hazardous factors based on risk priority levels. Last one, balancing the cost and benefits of risk treatments. Therefore, the aim of the present study is to review the literature on risk assessment of onshore and offshore long-distance water pipelines. A case study is applied Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus water supply project, which involves both offshore and onshore sections. The project aimed to supply water for drinking and irrigation from southern part of Turkey to the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus via a pipeline under the Mediterranean Sea. The pipelines daily transport and distribute huge amount of fresh water across the island. Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus water supply project. Let's talk about this project. It's known, but let's make more clear. TRNC experiences problems such as freshwater shortages, irregular rain distribution, and rain pour down directly into the Mediterranean Sea, directly without infiltration, and due to climate change and high temperatures, evaporation is increasing in water storage structures. Because of the water shortage problem, groundwater is overexploited, causing the water table to decline below the sea level, many meters. This has made the island's water salty, and so the water quality of TRNC decrease year by year. Generally, most of the island's water needs are relied on groundwater. This figure presents us isohedral map of Cyprus, present situation in the country. This is whole island. You know, the Turkish Cypriots living in north and Greek Cypriots living at south. And if you check this figure, you can see the lowest rainfall values in between Girne Beşparmak Dağları mountains and Troodos mountains, Mesarian plain. Around the Güzelyurt region is less than 300 millimeters per year. And this figure, this graph also is calculated, is drawn by us. Decline in precipitation, it's very clear. Last approximately 100 years, the precipitation value decreased 25.96%. It's very important. And this figure showed us more than 40, 50 years, the TRNC is experiencing drought. Since 1970s, it's continuously decreased the yearly rainfall, annual rainfall. And this is another figure. It's also shown that the temperature changes in the last 35 years in TRNC. It's not limited only summer months, but also the winter months, the same regime. It depends on, of course, the global climate change. And this is another figure, shows us the groundwater level changes. As you see on the left hand, -30 means you can reach many levels, many wells, more than 50, 40. And this is the observation well. And as you see, approximately 25 up to minus 30 meters below mean sea level. It's very interesting. And what happened? Depends on the over exploitation, over pumping from the aquifer, on a coastal aquifer, and a Güzelyurt aquifer, Morpho aquifer, seawater intrusion happened. 5 up to 8 kilometers seawater intruded inland, and we obtained saline water from our aquifer. For this reason, the quality of the water has continuously decreased and water resources are progressively drying out. It was noted that optimal solution for resolving the water problems, the long term in northern Cyprus, was to transport water to it. In this context, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus water supply project targeted to supply the island with drinking water. This project is comprised of 3 main parts. The first part is Turkey part, land structures. The second, sea cross. And third part, North Cyprus land structure. I will show it by figure later on. Water is being supplied from Alaköprü Dam, constructed in Turkey through undersea pipes, and then conveyed to Geçitköy Dam, constructed in northern Cyprus. 3 main parts. Water supply project is aimed at delivering water for drinking and irrigation from southern Turkey to the northern coast of Cyprus via a pipeline under the Mediterranean Sea. The pipeline provides 75 million cubic meters of water per year to TRNC. With this project, approximately half of them for potable water, the other half for irrigation at the beginning. In time being, the irrigation part will decrease, depends on the increasing of the population. The peoples will use more water from this transported water, depends on, as I said, increasing the population. Approximately 283 cubic meters water per second is planned to flow through the pipeline. An area of 4,824 hectares will be irrigated. The Alaköprü Dam, Turkish site, which is situated at height of 99 meters, stores the water required for the pipeline, approximately 130 million cubic meter capacity. From Alaköprü Dam, the water is transported via a 22-kilometer pipeline, ductile, 1.5 meters diameter, to the Anamurium balancing tank, 1,000 cubic meter capacity, and then after 1 kilometer enters the pipeline leading into the Mediterranean. The pipes are suspended at a depth of 250 meters in the Mediterranean Sea and cover the 80 kilometers. It's a huge amount from Turkey to Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Each pipe has length of 500 meters, unbelievable, and is tied with special ropes to the seabed. A total of 160 pipes with a diameter of 1,600 millimeters, high-density polyethylene type, were used for the entire sea crossing. The most critical point of the water supply project is sea crossing. The specific factor that demonstrates the importance of this project is that such a long distance transition using a suspended pipeline is the first around the world. The sea crossing is implemented using special high-density polyethylene pipes. High-density polyethylene pipes. The steel yokes, which act as fixing and encouraging points, have an outside diameter of 1.514 millimeter with a bent angle of 30 degrees without any connecting elements. These steel yokes were drawn down to a depth of 250 meters by ropes and then encouraged to the seabed. Some concrete blocks they fixed. Flank connectors were assembled on a special installation ship, with 24 connection bolts on both ends of the steel yokes. The deepest part of the seabed is 1,430 meters. Imagine, like in a valley in between Turkey and Cyprus Island. We have to pass this depth. Since the water pressure is too great on the seabed, it is not possible for the pipes to delay it at the depth. The pipeline also has to sufficiently deep that it does not interfere with passing ships or submarines. Other advantages are that the pipes can be laid in as straight a line as possible, avoiding the step contours of the seafloor. After traveling through the sea, the high-density polyethylene pipeline reaches the coast of the TRNC, where the water is pumped into the reservoir, another reservoir of the Geçitköy Dam, some 3 kilometers away. This capacity is 26.5 million cubic meters. This is showed us the project. You can see the North Turkey and the South Cyprus Island. It is a symbolic picture. And as I said, the project divided as 3 parts. The first part is Turkish side. The other one is the TRNC side. And the main part, the most important part, Cyprus. You can see Alaköprü place and 23 kilometers transmission line, 8 kilometers Cyprus pipeline, and 3 kilometers force main to the Geçitköy Dam. This is simply show us, it's a figure, show us the project. This is the detail about the Geçitköy Dam, the Turkish side dam. The capacity is 130.5 million cubic meters, and the other details you can see. And we are obtaining an electricity also, 26 megawatt from this reservoir, Alaköprü reservoir, interconnected lines. They are giving this electricity. And this is the line with in between Alaköprü, 22 kilometers ductile, 1.5 meters diameter, up to Anamurium balancing tank, 1,000 cubic meter capacity, and later on this point, Anamurium balancing tank to the sea, 1 kilometer, total 23 kilometers pipeline. And this is the first part of the sea cross. As you see, the pipeline fitted inside of the seabed up to minus 20 meters. This is the first part, the both side, not only Turkish side, but also TRNC side. The second, this is the process. You can see how can they dig the seabed and put inside of the seabed. And this is the second part of the sea cross. As you see, together with the concrete blocks, they fix to the surface of seabed pipeline until 280 meters. After 280 meters, the most important part, suspended pipelines, started. At the bottom, you can see the concrete blocks, 991 meters scale, and the other instrument, rope, you can see it. But the interesting point is the 5 meters long each pipeline. They produce on the shoreline in a special factory. They constructed a factory first on a shoreline because of the 500 meters long pipeline cannot transport from one point to other point. They produce on a shoreline, and when they increase the number of enough number, they started to process. And some figures, as you see, 80 kilometers, 151 meters. This is the total amount of this pipeline, high-density polyethylene pipelines. And you can see the minus 250 meters below sea level. This is the place of pipeline. How can we suspend? by using special ropes and the other instruments. And this is the general view. And approximately in the central part, you can see the deepest part of the valley, in between left hand the Turkey, right hand the Cyprus island. And this is the process. How can they fix? And another simple figures. This is important. This is a ship, very special ship because of the Malaysian origin. It's in a consortium together with the Malaysian company. This ship used to fix by using V-shape part, 500 each side, left and right hand, each pipeline by using the V-shape connection part on a ship, on a special ship. And this is another figure. You can see easily how can they fix. And they use some other concrete blocks to fix at the bottom. And this is the rope. The properties you can see really very interesting, very strong rope. Norwegian countries they produce, and the others, and 4 kinds of the ship. On the right hand, you can see the huge 2,000 meter square area. It's very huge ship. And we came to the Cyprus part. This pipeline reached up to Güzelyurt pumping station, Güzelyalı pumping station, without energy. No need to use energy. Normally, naturally, water from the Alaköprü Dam, 130 million cubic meter capacity, through the Güzelyalı pumping station without energy. But at that moment, at this point, we need energy. And as you see, this is Güzelyalı pumping station up to Geçitköy Dam, 26.5 million cubic meter. If you compare with the Turkish side reservoir and the TRNC side, it's a little bit different. 130 and 26.5. You can compare. And after Geçitköy Dam, we pump the water from Geçitköy pumping station to the treatment plant. And after this point, after the treatment process, this water distributed from north to south, from east to west, approximately more than 100 kilometers pipeline, all the municipalities. It's completed. And this is the first pumping station, Güzelyalı pumping station, 5 megawatt electricity we need. And the other one, Geçitköy pumping station, 16.4 megawatt capacity electricity we are using now. And this is the property of our Geçitköy Dam, 26.5 million, and the other properties you can see easily. And this is the summary of our project. Turkey TRNC neighboring countries, Peace Water project. Why we are saying this? Access to good quality water in sufficient quantity and quality is fundamental for most economic activities and for the daily lives of every human being all over the world. However, as you know, only 3% of water is fresh water, and it is not distributed equally around the world. It's not equally distributed. Some people lucky, the others not. Additionally, the increasing population and growing industry are negatively affecting sustainable water and food security. This is very important. If you don't enough water, you have the water problem, also food problem. You cannot talk about the water security without, you cannot talk about the food security without water. Water is if you don't have. Yes. For example, some countries such as Cyprus, Egypt, Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel are experiencing freshwater shortages. I will show by using a figure to this. I will make it more clear by using a figure later on. The Turkey TRNC water supply project is unique and complex project, and the Turkish government has promoted the project as the project of the century. Additionally, Turkey has also defined its peace water. I am saying also, this may be a peace water to establish in between South and North Cyprus. And this is the table, the predictions for the temperature and precipitation change in Mediterranean. If you look at this table, we can say that yes, global climate change affected whole Mediterranean, but mainly the eastern part of the Mediterranean affected. If you look at this figure, this is it's drawn Turkey inland, Cyprus, Lebanon, Nile Delta, and Egypt and Libya more affected from the global climate change. The project is expected to solve the TRNC's fundamental and chronic problems of the water shortages and expensive electricity. The project will make a significant contribution to the economic development of the region. It will enhance agriculture and will contribute to enhancing the standard of living in TRNC and the region, while also ensuring that all residents and visitors to TRNC can drink pure water. Thus, the project will meet all of the TRNC's water needs for next 50 years. At least 50 years, we will not suffering from the water shortage problem related with drinking purposes, municipal purposes. In this context, the water supply project, which is the first time a project on this scale has been achieved around the world, has been realized to solve the water problems of TRNC and for all neighboring countries. For instance, if the Greek parts of the Cyprus also wants to utilize this water, Turkey will have the ability to share the water as a result of this project. Based on the previous scientific researches related to the southern part of the Cyprus, the volume of water required in 2000 was found to be 265.9 million cubic meters. This was used to predict the amount of water needed in the future. In addition, pond capacity were compared, and it was found that the pond capacity in South Cyprus, approximately 330 million cubic meters, in 10 times more than the pond capacity in northern part of Cyprus, 33 million cubic meters. Furthermore, by considering the current and future dry years, as well as the years in which the surface water could be used at minimum levels, solutions are required to increase alternative water resources. Therefore, the author believed that a solution that can resolve the current water problems in south part of Cyprus is to use the water that Turkey will share via the Turkey TRNC water project, or to construct new pipelines parallel to the first one. Moreover, it is evident that Turkey is not a country that has extensive water resources. However, there are billions of cubic meters of water flowing from Turkey's southern regions into the sea, also during the summer. In fact, considering the fact that the capacity of Dragon Stream, which will provide or providing only 75 million cubic meters of water per year, is in fact 750 million cubic meters. Turkey has the option to increase the number of pipelines that can be installed to increase the capacity tenfold. Consequently, the water project is not only the communication of a longer-term plan to develop the north and to prepare it for a solution, but will also prepare it to function independently. This represents the plan B, making TRNC into a stronger entity so that in the event that negotiations fail yet again, the Turkish side can urge that it should be recognized. the transmitted water will be used as drinking, industrial, and irrigation water, and will make a significant contribution to the economic development of TRNC. In addition, some of the water could be sold to the Greek part of the Cyprus or transferred to the neighboring countries, either by pipeline or through water tankers, in order to generate income. TRNC has the potential to be free from water scarcity and can make significant revenues from selling water. Now let's come to the main part of our presentation. After the explanation of all the properties of this project, risk assessment of onshore and offshore long-distance water pipeline. In TRNC, the quantity of long-distance water transmission project has been increasing and scope become larger and larger due to the water crisis in the country. Therefore, TRNC water supply project is a major project between Turkey and TRNC that include onshore and offshore sections. Therefore, safety of workplace, environment, and employers is also another important argument. In this respect, it is essential to discuss an occupational risk assessment study to eliminate the risks that may arise around the pipeline. In such large projects, various risks have emerged due to improperly trained construction personnel, wide range of operations, and risk management awareness. Moreover, traffic conditions, restrictions, severe construction conditions, the impact of changing weather and other external factors can cause different hazards and safety risks for such projects. Hence, effective risk management in such projects is an important process to reduce construction and environmental risks, secure the safety of pipeline construction, employees, and improve the service quality. Although TRNC water supply project is a safe and economical mode of transportation of fresh water, they face challenges caused by risk factors. These include nature risk, anchor and traveling accidents, technology risk, and other risks. Furthermore, they are subject to a range of hazards and accidental damage that have severe consequences on a project and people's lives. Long-distance pipelines mainly suffer from mechanical, operational, and natural hazards, design flaws, misuse, and corrosion damage. It should be noted, Turkey governmental implemented an under-Mediterranean Sea water supply project, which was achieved for the first time in the world to solve the problem of water shortage in TRNC. Additionally, no study deals with modeling the uncertainty involved in the problem of onshore and offshore water pipeline risk assessment. Moreover, in January 2020, the Turkey TRNC water pipeline suffered disruption due to severe weather conditions. The repair work required new high-density polyethylene pipes and their supports to replace damaged ones. Due to severe weather conditions and the production of the pipes, the repair work completed by September 2020. Therefore, the current study is reviewed previous scientific studies associated with risk assessment of onshore and offshore oil, natural gas, and petroleum pipeline. Consequently, the risk factors are summarized based on the previous studies related to onshore and offshore pipeline. This is showed us the type of risk. We will say something. We will start the nature risk. It's a sequence, number of risk, and description. For example, low soil pH, high soil salt, rainstorm, earthquake, landslide, hard soil, medium hard soil, something like that. These are classified as nature risk. And the other group, anchor and traveling accidents, engineering ship phase, transport ship phase, fishing vessel versus engine fails and something like that. And the other one, technology risk, complex pipeline route, monitoring system failure, flow adjustment, erosion, monitoring system, something like, and finally, technology risk. You can see many risks, and some of them, coating repairing is not timely, thinner inner coating, corrosion, inhibitory failure, and the others. As you see, 63 different risks classified as 4 groups. And finally, other factors. Last 10, it's classified as other factors. Safety factor, collusion and safety education, operational factors, totally 75 different risks. As conclusion and future work, let's say some words and let me finish my presentation. Nowadays, pipelines have been extensively used for transporting water for long distance. Also, constructing a long distance transporting freshwater network would help to reduce the water shortage in the neighboring countries. Therefore, their risk assessment could help to identifying the associated hazards and take necessary actions to eliminate or reduce the risk. As future work, in the present study, the failure models and effect analysis method, an artificial neural network, and a fuzzy inference system will be used to study the effect of the condition of the onshore and offshore water pipeline on the environment. Moreover, this work can help to identify the associated hazards and take necessary actions to eliminate or reduce the risk in the future. The data will collect from the field operation in Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. The results would help to give a higher level of accuracy, precision, and reliability in terms of environment and pipeline risk assessment. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you for sharing your valuable research with us, Professor Gökçekuiş.
Thank you.
As our second keynote speaker, I now would like to invite Assistant Professor Dr. Amin Ryazi from Cyprus International University, North Cyprus.
Hello, and thank you very much for your invitation. I will start my presentation. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Today I'm going to talk about coastal engineering and what we can learn from AI. I just want to double check that if my screen is shared and is visible to all, yes? Yep. Okay, generally, nowadays, AI is a hot topic, and with a small search on Google Scholar, we can see that mainly articles are using AI to estimate or predict are used in different engineering problems. They are using it to predict or estimate different outcomes. The thing is that what comes to mind is that one reason could be that our understanding of AI is increasing, but what I have seen in the recent published papers is that our access to data has been easier these days, and that's why we are seeing more papers related to the application of AI in engineering. And mostly that's the main reason that if you check the papers, you can see that the AI is defined as a simple MATLAB application. And in all papers, you can see the famous neural network picture that I'm putting on the board in the introduction of the papers, that usually they say that this is artificial intelligence. We have some data that will be our input variables. We have a hidden layer that no one knows what is happening there, and we have an output that everyone is happy with. So this is that usually is called artificial intelligence and is most used in papers. However, by definition, artificial intelligence is a wide-ranging branch of computer science concerned with building a smart machine capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. Now, to this end, AI has been widely used in coastal engineering. For example, I have seen tons of papers that they are using AI to estimate water level. We have tides as a periodic event during the day that can be easily measured, as you can see in the picture, through traditional method or more modern approaches. So we have nowadays a very good database related to tides that can be used to estimate the water level in any time that we want. The issue is that in the papers, if we check, we can see that they are arguing that AI is being used to estimate the water level. But when you check methodology of the papers, you can see that simply AI has been changed to a curve fitting method. As you can see, previously recorded water levels are used, and through AI, the next water level is estimated exactly what can be done in a curve fitting approach. Now, when one wants to use AI to estimate or predict something, it's better first to realize the causes of that event. For example, if we are interested in estimating tide or water levels, we have to see what is the main cause of tides. As we know, astronomical forces that comes from moon and sun are the main reasons of tides on Earth. So therefore, instead of previously recorded water levels, if we use, for example, moon position, Earth rotation, Earth position, and geological, geomorphological, and biological factor as our input, with a simple deep network, we can estimate tide level with a high degree of accuracy. This is what I have done in my recent published paper, Accurate Tide Level Estimation, a deep learning approach. And the result was interestingly very good. The tide levels, I was able to estimate the tide levels with a high degree of accuracy. The benefit of this is that compared to the traditional methods that is being used in the literature, is that usually if you use the previous recorded data and try to estimate the next tide level, you are limited to a specific location. Now, if you want to use your model in another location, you have to again design and train the model over the data that you have from the other location. But if you use the cause of tide as your input, the benefit will be that you will have a general model that can be used in all locations, wherever that you have the moon position, Earth rotation, and Earth position. You can simply use this model and estimate the tide. Now, this is that what usually is discussed as using AI in, for example, coastal engineering or other engineering problems. They are saying that we have used that, we have trained the model, and our accuracy is very high. Now, the main question is that when we are saying that the accuracy of a model is high, what do we mean by that? For example, from this picture, as you can see, tides have a periodic event. So therefore, it is anticipated that an even simple method can estimate tide levels with a high degree of accuracy. So now the question is that, for example, if I say that the accuracy of my model is 99%, 98%, 95%, any number, what does that really mean? Now, the thing is that generally, what is being argued, and in most cases it's true, is that when we say that we have a model with accuracy of 99%, it means that we can estimate if the model is going to estimate a tide level, and the tide level should be estimated as 1 meter with a 99% accuracy, it means that on average it will estimate it as 99 centimeters. So there will be 1 centimeter error. But the thing is that when I optimized my model, I realized that the total accuracy of the model is near 90, I think 5 or 6%. It was very good, it was very high. But I was interested to see that what is the problem, what is the cause that I have near 4 or 5% of error. Interestingly, when I was tracing the error, I realized that in most of the days, the model is able to estimate the tide level with a high degree of accuracy, near 100%. So I got more curious to see that what is the main reason, what is the cause of this error. I reached to a date, as you can see in this picture, that the model, interestingly, is predicting the tide completely vice versa from what has been measured. The water level was going up, but based on the estimation, the water level should be going down. So I realized that this is a huge amount of error, as you can see, from a water level of, in terms of percentage, 0.9. The model was estimating it at 0.1. This is near 80% error. The error was so big that was causing an overall, it was increasing the overall average error. So when I was saying that my model has an accuracy of 95, 96%, the error that I was having here was affecting all the numbers there. But interestingly, generally, if one, for example, I have seen this in other papers, that when they see a huge amount of error, the first thing that comes to mind is that add some neurons to your network, and you will increase the accuracy. The problem there will be that you're overfitting your model to data. You're forcing your model to memorize the training data, and for sure it will give you accurate answer. But the benefit, the part that I'm emphasizing in this presentation is that when you know your model, when you have designed your model and you're not using just a MATLAB and just having some input and outputs, you are sure about your optimization. Now the error will talk with you. For example, the error here, when I checked the date, I realized that exactly on that time, there was the biggest storm in Queensland, as you can see. I think the name of it was Cyclone Ryazi. This is one of the biggest storms in Queensland, and this phenomena has caused this error. So what I'm trying to say is that if the models are optimized correctly and you are aware of what you have designed, even you can have advantage and you can learn from the errors. The errors can be considered as alarming points, for example. See, the errors doesn't necessarily mean that the accuracy of your model is low. No. When everything is correct, you can use, in most cases, for example, the case that I have presented here, the error will represent, like it will act like an alarm. It will show that something unusual is happening there. So, for example, you can use that, go and check, or even you can design another model that uses these errors, traces them, and even it can predict any unusual activities that may happen. I tried to keep my presentation as short as possible. I know we have other speakers and some may take longer or needed more time. So I tried to make it as simple as possible. And if there is any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for sharing your valuable research with us.
No worries.
If there are any questions, we will take them at the end of the session. Is that fine?
Sure. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our next guest is Dr. Abbas Hashemi from Canadian Institute for International Law Expertise, Canada. On behalf of the organizing committee, I apologize for the inconvenience regarding the program schedule, Dr. Abbas. We are very pleased to have you here with us, and we are looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you, Professor Mustafa Alas, for your acceleration in this conference. I need to share my screen with you. Okay. I think you can see my screen, yes?
Yes, Doctor, we can see, and I would appreciate it if you can make your screen full screen.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. It's a great honor to participate in this international conference organized by Near East University. As you can see on my screen, my intervention is about the opportunities and challenges facing the future development of international environmental law. My presentation aims to provide some essential elements of formation and development of international environmental law and present some challenges facing the international community. As you probably know, international environmental law as a new branch of public international law emerged basically in the 1970 decade. Since that time, global environmental protection has become a significant concern and preoccupation of international community. Climate change, air pollution, drinking water, waste and hazardous substances, soil protection, loss of biodiversity, noise and light pollutions are the contemporary preoccupation of humanity. The international community has recognized the environmental protection that must be addressed holistically and globally. In this context, the purpose of environmental law is to reduce or prevent environmental harm by imposing rules and regulations. In general, international environmental law is divided into three generations. First generation start before the formation of international environmental law until 1972 Stockholm Conference. This generation began mainly from the 18th century, which the bilateral agreements in the field of fisheries, high seas, and marine life resource. The majority of treaties were bilateral based on common interest of a state. For this reason, the governing principle was reciprocity of obligation, which is called in international law sic omnes obligations. Following industrial development and economic revolution in the Western countries, especially, environmental activists and scientists warn that if industrial process and progress continue the same way, the world would be destroyed. As a result, by the end of 1960 decade, the states were forced to hold the Stockholm Conference in 1972. And second generation start from the Stockholm Conference until the Rio Conference, 1992. According to recommendation of the United Nations General Assembly, the International Conference on the Protection of Environment was held in June 1972 in Stockholm. The Stockholm Declaration recognized the right of development to be closely linked to environment by identifying the right to healthy environment as a fundamental human right. According to this document, environmental issues should be at the forefront of international cooperation. This declaration marked the start of dialogue between developed and developing countries on the link between economic. This generation of environmental law has recognized a fundamental right to environment. According to the principle first of the Stockholm Declaration, man has the fundamental right to freedom, equality, and adequate condition of life as an environment of quality that permits a life of dignity and well-being, and he bears a solemn responsibility to protect and improve the environment for present and future generations. Another important outcome of the Stockholm Conference was the establishment of international body called the United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP. UNEP is the United Nations affiliated environmental protection program that has been one of the most essential pillars of international protection in the world. In this period, several international treaties, including convention, protocol, agreements, and so on, has been negotiated and adopted by a state. These multilateral treaties are concluded by the active participation of non-state actors and non-governmental organizations. Most of the treaty were based on treaty laws, distinguished from treaty contract on the first generation. So the third generation of international environmental law begins with the 1992 Rio Conference on Environment and Development. In Rio Conference, the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, and Convention of Biological Diversity, which were drafted before the Rio Conference, were open in the conference for signature of a state. The Rio Conference established some regulation to achieve sustainable development and mark a new turning point in developing international law. In addition, the Rio Conference concluded with the adoption of 3 non-binding instruments, including the conference final statement, Agenda 21, and the principle of forest conservation. The Rio Declaration affirmed that the state should always be concerned with environmental preoccupation in their economic and development and their industrial growth. Furthermore, the state should consider sustainable development as an approach in their national plans. Also, they should consider the principle of sustainable development in the national laws and international agreements. RIA also recognized the role of social group and non-governmental organization in protecting the national, regional, and global environment. Another remarkable event in this period is the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. The agenda aims at a plan of action for sustainable development, strengthening universal peace and eliminating poverty. In this generation, the right to the environment and the right to development are recognized by international law. Therefore, the third period of the development process of environmental law could be called the period of realism, universalism, and reforms. Now, let's turn to the source of international environmental law. International environmental law is based on two types of non-binding and binding sources. Non-binding sources or soft law is not obligatory and has no specific warranties and guarantees. This source is included in statements, resolution, agenda, action plans, and rules that guide the governments to protect the environment. The main purpose of soft law is to express the non-obligatory principle and rules that guide governments to protect the environment in a flexible manner. Although these sources are not binding in themselves, they have a very important impact on the development of international environmental law. The most important examples of this source are the Stockholm Declaration, the Universal Charter of Nature of 1982, the Rio Declaration, the Agenda 2030. Again, the drafting and implementation of these action plans or statements allow governmental and non-governmental actors to cooperate together. The second source of international environmental law is binding law or hard law, which impose obligatory rules and regulation on government to take international responsibility in governmental issues. In this essential to mention here that source of international environmental law go beyond the public international law. Although Article 38 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice mentioned about the traditional source of public international law, the other sources also apply to environmental law, such as jus cogens, erga omnes, obligatory resolution of international organizations such as UNEP, CITES, and another international organization for protecting environment. Now let's look at the fundamental principle of international environmental law. One of the most important models of analysis of international environmental law is the examination of its basic principles and concepts. This model can facilitate understanding many international environmental treaties. Today, almost all international environmental instruments, binding or non-binding, contain or refer to this principle and concept. One of the basic principles of international law is the principle of sovereignty. However, the concept of sovereignty is not absolute. It is subject to a general duty not to cause environmental damage to the environment of other states of area beyond the state national jurisdictions. As stated in the Rio Declaration, states have, under the Charter of the United Nations and the principle of international law, the sovereign right to exploit their resource according to their own environmental and development policies, and the responsibility to ensure that activity within their jurisdiction or control do not cause damage to the environment of other states or area beyond the limit of national jurisdiction. The principle of international cooperation is another principle that is an integral part of the United Nations Charter. The principle is also one of the features of contemporary international law, which is mandatory and take the state, it take from the customary international law and for expressing global commitment of state. Due to transboundary nature of environment, because for environment there is no any boundary, states are obliged to cooperate in all circumstances in good faith to protect the environment. And it can be said that principle of cooperation is based on universal obligations and is rooted from the customary international law. Another principle of international law is precautionary principle. This principle is a key principle of environmental law because the concept of this principle, according to Article 3 of the UNFCCC, is whether there are threats of serious damage, lack of full scientific certainty should not be used as a reason for postponing such measure. Under this rule, a state be obliged to apply precautionary measure to prevent damage within its own jurisdiction. Is another basic principle that can be tracked back to the International Court of Justice from the 1949 Corfu Strait case. And another international sources such as environmental treaties and agreements are affirm the principle of notification in international law. The last principle which I'm going to talk about it is the principle of sustainable development. The 1987 Brundtland Commission presented the most well-known definition of sustainable development in a report entitled Our Common Future, which cited sustainable development as meeting current needs with forgetting the need of the next generation. The efforts of the international community to formulate and achieve sustainable development goals have continued since the 1919 decade. One of the most important documents for formulating the sustainable development goals was Rio Declaration and Agenda 21. Then the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, adopted by the United General Assembly in 2000, is for the purpose to ensure environmental sustainability by encouraging states to address extreme poverty, hunger, empowering women, reducing child mortality, improving mental health, disease, and expanding global partnership for development. However, the implementation of sustainable development confronted some challenges in its form and concept. In terms of content, it lacks of comprehensive approach for including indigenous people, local cultures, good governance, consuming resource, producing goods and services, freedom of expression, employment, identifying the root of poverty, and gender discrimination. There are also some other principles and concepts, such as the common heritage of humanity in international law or the right of future generation. Regarding the challenge facing the future of development of international environmental law, despite all global efforts to develop binding and non-binding global instruments in environmental concern and threat such as global warming, climate change, desertification, and deforestation are not only remaining, but also increasing. Today's world's environmental concern and threat go beyond the prediction of the experts and scientists present at Stockholm First Environmental Conference in 1972. The first challenge is sovereignty, state sovereignty. Regardless of the concept of sovereignty of state in international law, one of the main obstacles for the development of international environmental law is the non-acceptance of government to delegate or limit their sovereignty in favor of international organizations. The principle of sovereignty is one of the basic principles of public international law. However, the concept of sovereignty is not absolute, and it is subject to general duty not to cause environmental damage. Another conflict also exists between developed and developing countries in enforcing regulations, implementation of environmental law, as you can see in COP26 in Glasgow. For instance, according to principle of common but differentiated responsibility, developed countries should take additional actions such as transferring technologies and contributing finance to developing countries. But this principle is not respected properly. This principle clearly set out in many international environmental treaties such as UNFCCC or CBD, and mandate developed countries to financial resource to assist developing countries in implementing the objective for protect the climate change or biodiversity. The second challenge is diversity of source of law. Another substantive challenge to developing international law is diversity of binding and non-binding sources, which is cause confusion and vagueness in implementation of international law at the national and international level. The insufficient guarantee of implementation of international environmental law is another fundamental challenge for implementing international law. Many international rules and regulations, including multilateral treaties, are confronted with a deficiency of compliance mechanism to protect the environment. The fourth challenge is institutional challenges. With the growing importance of global environment protection since the 1972 decade, international governmental organizations have tried to play important role in environment protection. As active subject of international law, international organizations, including non-governmental organizations, have a serious task to behave in this regard. As I mentioned earlier, one of the essential reflections holding the Stockholm Conference was establishing the United Nations Environmental Programme, or UNEP, as the global executive arm of international protection of the environment. But unfortunately, the UNEP has limited capacity to protect the global environment. As a result, it's a time to evaluate possibilities for creating a new organization for environmental protection like World Environmental Organization, the same as international organization that exists for another subject. Finally, I believe there are also new challenges in the world. Environmental immigrants, ecological purposes refugees, environmental confrontation between states such as water war, international armed conflicts, ecocide, ecotourism are issues that have to be discussed in another occasion. To conclude my presentation, we know that global challenges need global solutions. In this perspective, international cooperation between states play a vital role. Economic growth and increasing technological advances in the contemporary period have caused real damages to the environment. The states should be willing to participate actively in drafting, signing, ratifying, and implementing new treaties on environmental problems such as climate change and water pollution, sea pollution, ocean pollution in a sustainability way. It is also crucial to recognize the right of public participation in the environmental decision-making process and implementation. The right to environment as a human right and economic development should be considered in the concept of sustainable development as a common concern of humanity. Now is the time for the international community to impose absolute responsibility of or strict liability of a state for any damage and harm to environment at national and international level. Finally, international peace and security are necessary to ensure sustainable development of humanity, regardless the developed or developing country. Thank you for paying attention at my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abbas, for your valuable presentation. Professor Bashir Hakim is our next keynote speaker. He is representing the Agri-Water Management and Agrometeorology from Algeria. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa. And thank you very much for the invitation. Okay, thanks for the organizing committee for the important and successful management of this conference. Now, give me a few moments to share my presentation, please.
We are ready, Professor, when you are ready.
It's okay? You can see the presentation, please?
We can see your presentation, Professor.
Thank you very much. Let me now to present myself. I am Bashir Hakim. I'm from Algeria. I worked National Institute of Agronomic Research affiliated to the Ministry of Agriculture of Algeria. In my presentation, I will present for you an approach to better present rainfall in region with a low distribution of rain cooking station. We take as example Eastern High Plateau region of Algeria. Arid and semi-arid region of Algeria are characterized by a harsh climatic condition and limited water resources. Rainfall as source of fresh water is limited and highly variable. This situation negatively affects both vegetation and land resources. Dryness due to the lack of water and increase in the water requirement and the conflict of use with other sectors conduct to meet the policy action both the microeconomic and microeconomic scales, and augment significant risk in establishing strategies without considering water resources factor and other factors such as climatic and physical parameters and the regional parameters. The economic challenge related to the field of agriculture and industry conduct us to better now our regional and local climate by adopting the best suited method to represent climatic parameters on the spatial and temporal plan, especially in area characterized by heterogeneous rainfall distribution additionally to the drought period. Our region extends over 23,610 square kilometers and with a perimeter of 1,872 kilometers, standing between geographical situation 4.2 degrees to 8.3 degrees latitude north and 35 to 36.6 longitude east. The region is characterized as a semi-arid region. It is separated from the African platform by the South Atlas geographical accident. The relief offered much more open horizon. The sedimentary cover the thick and more discontinuities. As we can see in this figure that represent digital elevation model, we can see that the region is separated by the north by the mountainous chain of mountain of Atlas chain here. In the northwest is the Georgia Mount with cumulative point reaching 2,300 meters. By the south is the Saharan Atlas chain, including Ores Mountains. Moreover, the studied area is dominated by plain, here and here and here, with very low slope, 0 to 5%. The main plain are those of Borjwari Ridge, here, Sitif, Mila, and Constantine province. Vision is now for the cereal cultivation vocation. Choice of this area is justified by its strategic and economic importance for sustainable development in Algeria. To overcome this problematic, we have putting in place a reflection on the methodology and the tool that must be used to estimate the precipitation parameter in region of study following this equation. With P represent the precipitation as a dependent variable, beta 1, beta 2, and beta 3 are the coefficient of multilinear regression, represent respectively of independent variable. X represent longitude, Y latitude, and Z altitude. Beta 0 represent an intercept, and epsilon is an error. However, this step required the establishment of reflection on the methodology of tools that be used to determine the parameters of the equation in this figure. To do this, we found it useful to make some basic information materials, such as digital elevation model and fictitious point grid. The digital, this figure represent digital elevation model, and the next represent a fictitious rain gogging station with number of 255 points, separated by a distance of 15 kilometers. Prospective work is necessary to identify data sources and to select reliable and relevant data to the objective of our study, located in the eastern high plateau of Algeria. We have selected annual rainfall series between 1986 to 2016. Collected from 65 rain gogging stations. On the other hand, different maps are collected, provided by National Institute of Map and Remote Sensing affiliated to National Army of Algeria. This figure represents yearly rainfall recorded in different rain gauging stations across the studied area. You can see that 36 rain gauging stations are less than 362.5 millimeters. That this value represents an average value of all rain gauging stations. Further skewness cosmograph Smirnov and Kurtosis tests were applied to characterize rainfall frequency and its distribution shape. We can see that cosmograph Smirnov test indicate that distribution shape is not rejected, and as it is moderately skewed and have a shape of plasticultic shape. One of our important objectives is to determine rainfall gradient structure and mapping spatial temporal distribution of the rainfall. About MLR model, you can see that multiple R equal to 0.17 and square R is 0.59 and then adjusted R equal to 0.51. Different elements are tested, such as F-test, T-test, NMS, and MSE, were used to check the overall significance and to evaluate performance of developed MLR model. These tests indicate that indeed the MLR model is significant at the 0.05 confidence level. Different values are summarized in this table. In other view, you can see that the altitude parameter is low. This may be due to the fact that the relief is not sufficiently contrasted in the studied area. To check this situation, we made a map of slope. And we can see that 88.49% of slope surface range versus the total surface are covered by slope ranged slope less than 5%, and 11% of total surface are covered by slope ranged between 5 and 10%. Multilinear regression in this case give more accurate description of regional distribution of precipitation or rainfall. It appears that 59.5% of observed variable of rainfall is attributed to geographical parameters, leaving 14.5% residual variance attributed to the measured complication. Rainfall spatial variability is clearly related to the north-south gradient in this case. The intercept play an important negative impact on the annual rainfall. Rainfall is influenced in this case by other environmental factors such as distance from sea, air humidity movement, land cover vegetation, temperature, and atmospheric pressure. The achievement of directional variable for rainfall data according to the north-south and east-west direction permit to identify structure of the rainfall phenomenon. These two figures indicate different form of these two variograph. You can see clearly that the direction north-south has a strong drift according to this direction. The theoretical parameter value are summarized in this table. You can see that range or slope about the two graph indicate existing of important range or slope. This value indicate that existing rapid fluctuation in the region. However, negative effect is important that indicate an existence of microclimate in the region. When we establish a map of rainfall, we can see this fluctuation and this microclimate in the map of rainfall. As you can see here, existence of microclimate indicated by different variables. This map indicates that isoyet ranged between 200 and 315 cover an area of 18,425 square kilometers. On the other hand, an area of 10,881 square kilometers are covered by isoyet ranged by between 315 and 415. The rest of isoyet cover an area of 4,173 square kilometers. About monthly rainfall, as you can see this figure, the average monthly rainfall in September, October, and November, corresponding to the first month of agriculture year, because we explain that the region is now for their cereal crop plantation. So, for the first month of the year, the amount is monthly low. This do not exceed the average value of 55 millimeter, 46 millimeter, and 85 millimeter respectively for the first month of the year, September, October, and November. The average rainfall amount remained highest during the winter, December, January, and February. This reached maximum value at the station with the highest rainfall of 163 millimeter and 121 millimeter and 104, respectively for the month of winter, December, January, and February. The average monthly rainfall for the spring season are low. As you can see, March, April, and May, the average rainfall is low. And for the rest of months, of yearly months, it's so low precipitation. Different parameters are summarized in this table, and you can see a representation of different MLR parameter across this table. About the trend of monthly rainfall, we can see that the effect of longitude on precipitation is variable and developed in an irregular way in different months of the year. The shape of the graph follows a zigzag form, indicating that the coefficient of value of longitude in the multiple regression equation do not follow a logical sequence. However, two important stages in the evolution of the longitude effect stand out. The first are starting in January, when the longitude effect decreased too sharply to reach negative value of 0 minus 0.0 85. The second, starting by this point to reach 4.62. This can be explained by the fact that precipitation in winter is oceanic in the nature, due mainly to the large-scale westerly distribution in the generally of low and instantaneous intensity, but it follow a long duration. About the effect of latitude is not very significant for the month of June to October, although the effect of this factor is significant for the remaining month, in particular for the month of December, 67, and January, 46, and February, 45. In the remaining month of the year, the effect of is medium. The result obtained show that there is not a proportional relationship between the coefficient of latitude and rainfall, with December being the west month in the studied area, coinciding with the highest value and decrease with decreasing rainfall. These results are supported by the fact that the studied area is located in the southern limit of North Atlantic storm track. The Mediterranean region is particularly sensitive to interannual shift in the trajectories of mild latitude cyclone that can lead remarkable anomalies of precipitation. Given the seasonal characteristic of Atlantic storm track, this particularity is true in winter, when the influence of mild altitude variability is at the greatest. Also, in winter, in arid climate region, most of rainfall comes from thunderstorm over small area. Then the intensity of the rain is usually high. These rain are generally of short duration and are linked to the movement of rain. Some topoclimatic situations facilitate the frequent of development of relief thunderstorm. Here it is clearly from the figure that the effect of altitude on precipitation is irregular. The effect of altitude is in the month of May is relatively stronger than the other month, and it is weakest in February. In contrast, it has not effect in the winter and summer months. In general, it can be seen that the effect of altitude is very small, or even almost zero, since the value of the coefficient are close to zero. It can be said that altitude has not effect on precipitation in the studied area. This is due to the low relief contrast in the studied area and confirm the result of study conducted with result of yearly rainfall data for the same period. About the intercept or the constant, the contrast or trend of the curve during the studied period shows that the factor has an inversely proportional effect, causing the amount of rainfall in studied area to decrease each time its value increase. It should be noted that the rainfall is influenced by other environmental factors such as distance from sea and air humidity movement, land cover, vegetation, temperature, and atmospheric pressure. In our case, the intercept combined all other factors into one value. The intercept play an important negative impact on the annual rainfall and the monthly rainfall. The combination of the warm sea in summer and large energy reservoir of autumn convection give the potential for disturbance. to set in during the autumn and especially in winter. This type of instability requires an external mechanism to initiate the amplification. The almost natural and effective mechanism is orographic uplift. There's two conditions, proximity to the Mediterranean Sea and the presence of relief often give rise to both deep and shallow convection events. In winter, rainfall is oceanic due to mainly of large-scale westerly disturbance, and it is generally of low instantaneous intensity but long duration. There is a reduction in precipitation at high altitude, but rainfall increase at medium altitude. On windward massive. In hydrogen, their relative importance decrease faster than the total rainfall. The coefficient of correlation R alpha of the different explanatory equation of the precipitation parameter in different months is considered as the criteria value of the correlation coefficient. The probability of alpha is equal to 5%. In our study, it is R alpha equal to 0.275. According to the Snegdor table, the correlation coefficients are significant except for the month of July. We have drawn a curve of the behavior of the monthly correlation. To this graph allow the clearly see that the month of which the equation of the multilinear regression are most explanatory. We can conclude that the geostatistical analysis indicate that the existing drift during the yearly annual rainfall and the monthly annual rainfall, supporting the MLR result concerning the existing of a strong north-south rainfall gradient in the studied area. The complexity of rainfall estimation in the region suggests the requirement to consider other variables such as temperature and mass movement and land cover vegetation to better understand the influence of this parameter on rainfall. Finally, the proposed approach provides a useful tool that can be easily applied to other parameters or other climatic parameters needed for climatology investigation and for environmental and economic studies. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for the valuable presentation, Professor.
Thank you for you.
It's a pleasure to us having you here with us. This was the last presentation we had on day 4 of the NRSEM 2021. Also, I would like to thank to all professors and participants for being with us today. Tomorrow we will continue to present high-impact research from very valuable scientists. For now, I would like to announce the end of day 4 presentations. We hope to meeting you tomorrow. Until then, I wish you all good health and well-being.